After having completed the chapter, Journey to the End of the World, and having known the gist of it, the summary of it, now let's move to some of the questions for which answers will be brief but all important questions. ये कुछ ऐसे सवाल हैं जो ज्ञान की दृष्टि से और उसके साथ ही परीक्षा की दृष्टि से बहुत महत्वपूर्ण हैं इस अध्याय के मातहत. So let's note some of the questions and a brief answer that I'll just give you hint of. One of the questions, the first question is, how do geological phenomena help us to know about the history of mankind? How do geological phenomena help us to know about the history of humankind? यानी भूगर्भ की जो घटनाएं हैं जमीन के अंदर की, वो मानव जाति के इतिहास के बारे में जानने में कैसे मदद करती हैं? How they help us to know about our history, mankind history? The answer is obvious. Study of geological phenomenon takes us to millions and millions of years back. In Antarctica, if you remember, there are certain faults and there are Precambrian granite shields. They help us to know the climate that was there. And from that only we come to know that temperature in the past must have been higher than what it is today. As I told you, the minimum temperature goes to 90 degrees now, but it wasn't so millions of years ago. It was much higher. It was something where flora and fauna could flourish. जहाँ पे जानवर, पेड़ पौधे, पत्ते जीवित थे और उनका जीवन चल रहा था. Climate hosted a vast variety of flora and fauna, and no existence of human trace is found. The geological phenomena also gives us the hint of extinction of some animals. For example, there are few animals which are no more there seen, and there are of course no plants visible in Antarctica now. They cannot bear that temperature. Crab eaters that we talked about, and so on and so forth. By undertaking a detailed study of Antarctica, we know about the history of mankind in this way. We have also come to know that certain animals, certain flora, fauna got extinct with the passage of time. And why so? Growing cold, decreasing temperature, making it inhospitable for human beings to live, for these animals to live. So inhospitable मतलब बड़ा कठिन था. So based on the hints given, now you can answer these questions. Next question. What are the indications for future of mankind? मानव जाति के भविष्य के क्या संकेत मिलते हैं? इन अंटार्कटिका के इस रिसर्च से, इस अध्ययन से और जो भी जियोलॉजिकल चेंजेस हुए हैं, बदलाव, उसके मद्देनजर, what are the indications? How do we see the future of mankind? That's what he is trying to say. Our world today answer is facing a danger of global warming. As I said, the temperature is increasing day by day. With the increase in temperature, there are likelihood of ice melt, ocean level rising up, land submerging, many flora fauna getting extinct in years, not in 1 day or 2 days, but in maybe in thousands of years. So one danger is of global warming, and that can lead to glaciers melting and ice caps falling. These are the indications of, sort of existence of a warmer world in future and also in the past. If this happens, it will be difficult for mankind to live. If global warming continues to have, and if days become warm and warm day by day, then in times to come, in long years from now, what is certain is human life will also get extinct. Man will go the way dinosaurs have gone, mammoths have gone, and woolly rhinos that finished the past, man will face the same. It is predicted that the West Antarctica sheet will melt completely, and if that happens, the Gulf Stream ocean current that you can see here, Gulf Stream ocean current, how big is the current of that, how it temperature affects the world. An ocean current affecting the temperature of the world, you can make out that will be disturbed, that will be disrupted, and climate change will cause the end of the world. Scientists have cautioned about any further damage to ozone layer, any further damage to ecological system, and so on and so forth. So this is a word of caution. A beautiful question now, question number 3, and that is, the world's geological history is trapped in Antarctica. दुनिया की जो विश्व की जो भूवैज्ञानिक इतिहास है वो अंटार्कटिका में दबा हुआ है. अंटार्कटिका में दबी हुई चीजों को हम बाहर निकालें तो हमारा विश्व का इतिहास हमको सामने दिखाई देगा. The world geological history is trapped in Antarctica. How is the study of the region useful to us? As I told you in question number 1, it is more or less the same question, but asked in a different way to be answered in a somewhat different way. Its study shows, number 1, India, Antarctica were part of that supercontinent that we discussed called Gondwana. India, Antarctica were part of that supercontinent. This supercontinent existed about, I think, 650 million ago. And then slowly, there was break. The climate of Gondwana was also much warmer. And it fostered, it promoted, it led to the healthy growth of a vast variety of flora and fauna. But with the passage of time, we see the extinction. With the passage of time, we see the region getting colder and colder day by day. We see with the passage of time, the life becoming inhospitable. We see with the passage of time, the landmass moving further away from this Antarctica core. These are the signs to show that history of civilization is trapped here to some extent. We dig it out and we get to know how all these transformations have taken place. Carbon, ozone, granite folds, and all this tells us the development and also the extinction and causes thereof. The study of these places help us in understanding these things, and that is why we say that the world's geological history is trapped in Antarctica. These are brief answers. You need to elaborate on that. The next question, what are Geoff Green's reasons? You know who is Geoff Green? I told you, Canadian. And he was a great explorer. Geoff Green's reasons for including high school student in the student on ice expedition. The question is, what are his reasons for including high school students? Not the celebrities, not big names, not richies, not those fun-loving travelers, but he included high school students. Why? He included them in his project called Student on Ice. Why? The answer is very simple. He felt that this expedition has a purpose. इस यात्रा का एक उद्देश्य है और उद्देश्य है अंटार्कटिका को जानना, आनंद लेना नहीं, घूम के आ जाना नहीं, पैसा फेंकना और एक घूम के आ जाना नहीं, बड़े बड़े लोगों को ले जाकर वहां फोटोग्राफी करने का उद्देश्य नहीं था. The object was, it aimed at developing a new understanding and respect for Mother Earth. That was its objective. It aimed to study Antarctica for geological reasons. It also aimed at developing a new understanding and respect for Mother Earth. That is the reason Green included high school students who would be committed to the cause, who would be sincere towards understanding this Antarctica development, the changes thereof, and will also work towards promoting better environment conditions. He provided them inspiring educational opportunities, as in that particular students are ready to absorb, learn, and act. The knowledge of this history will give them deep insight into the matter, and when they come back, these students, into the mainland, they will try to disseminate their opinions. They will try to implement what they learned out there, and they will do their best to save the Mother Earth from further deterioration in terms of environment. So that is why Green included high school students in his project. Next question. Why is Antarctica the place to go, understand the Earth's present, past, and future? Why is that place? Because that place is chosen for the purpose of studying our past, present, and future, simply because today it remains uninhabited, untouched. It is absolutely almost virgin land today, with no life out there. And so it remains undisturbed. Second, underneath Antarctica is trapped the geological changes that came about. And those geological changes help us the reasons of those changes, whether due to global warming of those days or whatever may be the. And so it is a place to go and understand our past. What is there in Antarctica? What was there 650 million years ago must have been the same at other places. Or at least we can draw some conclusions out of our research at Antarctica. By understanding the past, we can still try to understand the present and can visualize the kind of world that may be there in times to come tomorrow. It remains that land, that place, ice plate called Antarctica, remains absolutely devoid of any life, absolutely untouched, no living. And so things are at its natural best. And so it is the best place for the study of our past, present, future, our evolution. The next question, how did the author travel to Antarctica? A very small answer. The author, Mrs. Joshi, traveled to Antarctica in a Russian research vehicle. By vehicle or vessel, we mean ship. Russian research ship called Academic Shokolsky. And then she also traveled by car, by aeroplane, etc., covering a distance of about 100 hours in terms of time. Next question, how did the author feel on reaching Antarctica? Antarctica पहुंचने के बाद author को कैसा लगा? If you remember, she wrote, I felt thrilled. Expansive ice plates, expansive, vast, absolutely blue sky, untouched, unpolluted by any kind of smoke or this thing. And so she was wonderstruck, awed, and looking at the wide expanse of Antarctica, uninterrupted by blue horizon and its isolation. एकांत में वो जगह है. She wondered, she was awestruck, she was dumbstruck. And she started imagining how come India, Antarctica, and all these places got separated. And how it must have been when India was a part of that place 650 million years ago. When South America was a part of that Antarctica. How the world must have been. How the drifting must have taken place. So, all in all, her first reaction is still reaction of that of wonder. At the end of the chapters, we had certain questions. Having answered those questions in brief, I think it is necessary that we must know the location and certain words, their terminology, and a little bit of detail in two-liners of some of the names that came up here. Look at this map. Supercontinental, where India, Asia are all together. You can look at this first globe. Look at Africa, Antarctica, South America, they're all together. And India is jetting into it. This was something like 615 million years ago. And today, you see the modern world. Today, it's different. They got separated, and Antarctica is down below in South Pole. Next. This is continental drift. What does it mean? The first map that you saw, where the entire world is supercontinental, then the drift takes place, separation, shifting, movement, wedging. There is a word that is used, W-E-D-G-E, wedge. That takes place. And now here you see that in this Antarctica is at the bottom. Look at Africa, how it got separated, the America and Africa, etc. India is far away. Now, this process has taken about 600 million years. And this movement, flow movement, is called drifting. This is called drifting. And so you can compare this map with the first map, first globe map that you saw, and you can understand how the evolution takes place. Next one. What is this? This is Precambrian shift. These are all those rock kind of structures, rocky structures, which have been photographed. If you remember, from those folds and Precambrian pieces, stones, we can make out the age, the time, the weather and all that. You can see how rocky these pictures look. So these are the Precambrian structures. Some of the photographs taken from different angles, different directions. Next. This is again the geological angle thrown into this, and there are Precambrian rocks also. How the Precambrian rocks different from the one that we studied just now, a little while ago. They are much more smooth, look to be well designed, and each layer comprises each century or each million, you might say. It must have taken millions of years for each of these layers to be formed into these rocky slates. The Precambrian rocks. Next. You remember Drake Passage. There was a sentence in the chapter that said that if the Drake Passage at one point of time was closed, what does it mean by closed and by open? You can see Pacific Ocean and Atlantic Ocean, and in between a landmass. This landmass was jetting into the landmass that is shown down below, called Southern Ocean, next to the Southern Ocean. So these two lands were a sort of together, and when they were together, that time the Drake Passage wasn't there. Look at the other map. The Drake Passage here, this passage means रास्ता. जब ये दोनों जमीनें अलग होती हैं तो एक रास्ता बनता है ड्रेक पैसेज का, which cuts down the journey time, the travel time to a great deal. So here is the bigger or better picture of Drake's Passage. On the north is Atlantic or South America. On the south is Southern Ireland and Antarctica. And in between that, there is a passage opened. And this passage opened because South America went further up. So this is something very clear that tells you Drake's Passage. Drake was the name of the person who happened to identify this passage. Next, look at Belgium. In one of the paragraphs, the name of the country called Belgium is mentioned. And it is said that Antarctica core is as big as Belgium, as big as a country called Belgium. To the north of Belgium or northwest of Belgium, you see United Kingdom, England. And look at United Kingdom. Nearby is Belgium. So somewhat of this size is the core of Antarctica. Next. Here is a timeline. If you remember, I said that 650 million years is equal to geological million years is equal to something like a few seconds of time. So there is a bit of explanation given for your benefit. The geologic time scale is a system of scientists used to organize Earth history into chronological order. एक क्रम में पृथ्वी का इतिहास, मानव जाति का नहीं, एक क्रम में पृथ्वी के इतिहास को जो 600, 700, 800 साल पुराना है, बल्कि कहीं कहा जाए तो 500 मिलियन ईयर्स का पुराना है, वो उसकी हिस्ट्री विच इज बेस्ड ऑन रॉक, ऑन स्ट्रेटा मीन्स लेयर एंड ऑन फॉसिल. फॉसिल मतलब जो बचा हुआ चीज रहती है, बची हुई चीजें रहती हैं, उनको फॉसिल बोलते हैं. तो ये जो टाइम लाइन है, timeline is something very important, and if you look at this picture on the side, that small picture tells you the sequence of that timeline, and that sequence is called chronological order. Right? Next. We discuss about civilizations. It won't be out of place if I mention the 7 most famous civilizations that existed in the world, that include Indian civilization also. No civilization exists in Antarctica. Civilization is a phenomenon that came not before 12,000 years from now. 650 मिलियन वर्ष के इतिहास में सिविलाइजेशन या सभ्यता मात्र 12,000 वर्ष पहले ही शुरू हुई. अर्थात कुछ सेकंड पहले, यदि मैं जियोलॉजिकल टाइमलाइन की भाषा में बोलूं. So those 7 civilizations are Western civilization, Confucian civilization of China, Japanese civilization, Islamic civilization, Hindu civilization, Slavic Orthodox, Latin America, and probably Africa. So these are the civilizations that existed, and we are proud to be one of those civilizations as Hindu civilization. Next. There was a constant reference of Gulf Stream in our class in this chapter. What is that Gulf Stream? You can see from this diagram the red line. It is the undercurrent stream, flow of water. See how it starts, where from it starts, and how it moves. And then how it goes that far as to touch Europe, the mainland of Europe, crisscrossing eastern side of America, moving on to Greenland, Iceland, and then touching Britain and Europe. ये जो स्ट्रीम है, ये हमारे मौसम को बहुत प्रभावित करती है, बहुत ही ज़्यादा प्रभावित कर मौसम को, जलवायु को, तापमान को बहुत ज़्यादा प्रभावित करने वाला ये वो पानी का बहाव है जो समुद्र के अंदर लगातार चलता रहता है. यहाँ जो ध्यान देने की चीज़ वो ये है कि ये ट्रॉपिक ऑफ कैंसर से शुरू होता है, और ट्रॉपिक ऑफ कैंसर जो है वो देखिए अफ्रीका के बीच से गुजरता हुआ जाता है और साउथ अमेरिका के साउथ से शुरू होता है और आर्कटिक की ओर बढ़ चलता है. एक जो एरो ऊपर जाता दिख रहा है वो आर्कटिक की ओर जा रहा है, जो नॉर्थ पोल कहलाता है. और ये हमारे यहाँ के मौसम को, अटलांटिक ओशन के तापमान को और साथ ही फ्लोरा फाउना को बहुत ज़्यादा प्रभावित करता है. नेक्स्ट. There was a reference of Mr. Green, if you remember. Mr. Green was the one who started the project called Students on Ice. And he picked up students to be taken to Antarctica so as to make them study and come back recharge to save environment. ये जो मिस्टर ग्रीन है, मिस्टर ग्रीन, इनका फोटो यहाँ देखिए. He is a Canadian, a big explorer himself, a very well known name. We can study about him further in Google. Next. As you see here, this Geoff Green, he was an environmentalist, expedition leader, and founder of Students on Ice Foundation. They're a very great personality, a very big name. And his mission was to take high school students to Antarctica, understanding, awareness, sense of responsibility for the planet. That was his objective. Understanding, awareness, and also sense of responsibility among youth. With that objective in mind, Mr. Geoff Green carries out a very massive mission, taking them to Antarctica. Next. Here comes the picture of that food chain. If you remember, phytoplankton, we discussed about it. And I said that phytoplanktons are the grasses, sea grasses, seen on the top and also at the bottom of the ocean. 180 meters deep ocean. कल्पना करिए 180 मीटर मतलब 2 किलोमीटर नीचे समुद्र से उतनी गहराई में ये होते हैं. इट्स लाइक एल्गी, फंगस, एल्गी, वट एवर यू कॉल इट. कुछ इसी तरह के होते हैं और इसका नाम है फाइटोप्लैंक्टन. और इन्हीं को खा खा कर वहाँ रहने वाले जानवर, मछलियाँ और सारे जानवर जिंदा रहते हैं, भोजन पाते हैं. कल्पना करिए बदलते मौसम, बदलते तापमान में कहीं ये फाइटोप्लैंक्टन का उत्पादन बंद हो जाए, जो प्राकृतिक उत्पादन है, तो ये जो इस पर जीव, इन फाइटोप्लैंक्टन पर आधारित जो जानवर जीते हैं, चाहे वो मछलियाँ हों, चाहे क्रैब हों, चाहे स्नेक्स हों या और हजारों तरह के मैमल्स हों, एनिमल्स हों, वो सब कहाँ जाएंगे? सब एक्सटिंक्ट हो जाएंगे. तो ये वो फाइटोप्लैंक्टन का पिक्चर मैं सोच रहा था आपके लिए बहुत ज़रूरी है देखना कि ये कैसे दिखते हैं. आप देखोगे कई जगह आप नदियों में बहुत हल्का 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 ऐसा घास जैसा पानी के अंदर तैरता रहता है. तैरता भी नहीं रहता, लहराता रहता है घास. ऐसी ही लंबी लंबी ग्रास हैं जो समुद्र में होती हैं, बड़ी ऊंची, बड़ी लंबाई और बड़ी गहराई में होती. सो दे आर कॉल्ड फाइटोप्लैंक्टन. नेक्स्ट. This is the food chain, which is heavily dependent on phytoplankton and such eatables. To explain this whole thing will take time, but what you need to understand is how each is dependent, how one is dependent on the survival, for its survival on the other. ये जो एरो बने बने दिख रहे हैं, इसको आप थोड़ा गौर से इसका अध्ययन करें, करीब आधे घंटे तक इसको समझने की कोशिश करें तो आप समझ जाएंगे कि कैसे एक जानवर का जीवन दूसरे जानवर पर बहुत कुछ निर्भर है. अर्थात यदि दूसरा जानवर अस्तित्व में ना रहे तो उस जानवर का, पहले जानवर का जीवन भी अस्तित्व में खतरे में पड़ जाता है. तो ये पूरी चेन है. इस चेन को बनाए रखने के लिए और उसमें से किसी भी जानवर के एक्सटिंक्ट ना होने के लिए जरूरी है कि ये सभी जानवर यथावत समुद्र के अंदर या वहाँ उस क्षेत्र में रहें, तभी वो फूड चेन बनती है और तभी फूड चेन की सप्लाई अबाध गति से चलती रहती. सो दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट ऑफ फूड चेन अंडरस्टैंडिंग. नेक्स्ट. While talking about the ozone layer and depletion, there was a word that came, global carbon cycle. How carbon gets converted into oxygen and how the cycle takes place. How much carbon is produced and how much of it is converted into oxygen, how much oxygen gets converted into carbon. There is a definite cycle for it. As you see from this picture, this cycle you see, and within that circle, you will find different systems, ecosystems, that some of them producing oxygen, some of them producing carbon and so on and so forth, and thereby trying to balance. This is what is called ecological balance. Global carbon cycle, it's a continuous movement of carbon through atmosphere, ocean, land, living organism, and Mind you, it is driven by both natural causes like photosynthesis and respiration, सांस लेना और photosynthesis, and also human activities like fuel burning. ये सब हमारे कार्बन सिस्टम को प्रभावित करते हैं, कार्बन साइकिल को. We have discussed this extensively. So this cycle gives you a beautiful pictographic view of how ecological balance can be maintained if everything is allowed to grow the way they should. And we keep a watch on emission of foul gases like carbon, etc. Next. A word named ozone depletion came 2-3 times in our lesson. Depletion का अर्थ मैंने बताया था कम होने की प्रक्रिया. To deplete मैंने कम करना. ये देखिए ग्लोब जो दिख रहा है, ग्लोब में ऊपर से सूरज की किरण हमारी धरती पर पड़ रही है और 3 किरणें दिखाई गई हैं, 3 तरह की. एक किरण रेडिएशन लिखा है, दूसरे में अल्ट्रावायलेट लिखा है और तीसरे में रेडिएशन और ओजोन होल लिखा है. ये तीनों तरह की किरणें सूरज से आ रही हैं धरती पर. ओजोन लेयर जो है वो सूरज की किरणों से आने वाले घातक रेडिएशन को रोकती है, अल्ट्रावायलेट रेज को रोकती है. ओजोन लेयर ब्लू और लाइट ब्लू कलर देखिएगा, ये ओजोन लेयर का हिस्सा है. लाइट ब्लू कलर ओजोन लेयर है और डार्क ब्लू कलर डीप ब्लू कलर इज एटमॉस्फेयर. तो हमारे यहाँ बहुत सी कार्बन की किरणें जहाँ रोकी जा रही हैं ओजोन लेयर के द्वारा, वहीं बहुत सारी एटमॉस्फेयर में आ गई हैं और कुछ तो धरती पर भी आ रही हैं. ये क्यों? इसका कारण है कि ओजोन लेयर में एक होल हो गया है. होल मतलब ऐसा होल विच रन्स इनटू फ्यू किलोमीटर्स में भी, जहां पर अब ओजोन इतना पतला हो गया है कि सूरज की किरणें उससे पार होकर धरती में आ रही हैं और ये मानव जीवन के लिए बहुत खतरनाक है. ओजोन लेयर में होल होने का कारण है हमारे द्वारा किया गया दुनिया भर की गंदगी, दुनिया भर की जो हम पोल्यूशन कर रहे हैं, उसके कारण जो इकोलॉजिकल बैलेंस डिस्टर्ब हुआ है, उसके कारण ओजोन लेयर में पतली हो गई है उसकी परत. और पतली ही नहीं हुई, कुछ जगह तो छेद हो गए हैं और उन छेदों से बिना छनी हुई सूरज की किरणें बड़े तीव्र प्रभाव के साथ धरती पर आ रही हैं, जो मानव जाति के लिए हानिकारक है. यदि इसे नहीं रोका गया, इफ इट इज नॉट स्टॉप्ड, ह्यूमन लाइफ is certainly in danger. Well, I think this is the last probably picture, Antarctic Circle. The book writes 65.5, but the correct figure is 66.5. It is Antarctica Circle is 66.5 degrees south latitude and not at 65.55. This line of latitude is important because it makes the southernmost point of Earth, where the sun remains continuously above, straight above or below the horizon for 24 hours.